In today's video, I've put together a compilation of my top 15 wood projects that I've done using paint stir sticks. These gorgeous wood projects are incredibly easy to make and budget friendly. So grab some paint stir sticks and let's get started. I bought a pack of this 18-inch white wood at my local Home Depot. They came in a pack of 10 for about $6.58. They are a little thicker, but quite similar in size to the 5-gallon paint stir sticks if the handles were trimmed off. So this is just another alternative to that. So I'll be using several of these for this project, but you can also use the 5-gallon paint stir sticks as well. I'll also be using 3 1-gallon paint stir sticks. These are the 12-inch ones, and these came in a pack of 10 for about $1.48 at my local Home Depot. I trimmed the wood to the following size. I start off by applying glue on the ends of the longer pieces, and I'm going to glue those onto the smaller wood, making sure they're placed towards the edge of the inner face and not on the outer edge like so. So it's going to be a bit of a narrow rectangle. And I'm just using a carpenter square just to make sure the corners are at a 90-degree angle. And you want to clamp this while it dries, and I'm using some painter's tape to keep it in place. For the base, I'll be using 6 tumbling tower blocks. So I'm going to be gluing 3 blocks on each end, and these blocks, especially the ones that will be glued on the corners, will give extra support and strength to the rectangle. I want to turn what currently looks like it's going to be a little planter into a wooden toolbox. So for this one, I'll be using another 5-gallon paint stir stick, as well as a couple extra scrap paint stick handles that were trimmed off from prior DIYs. To determine the length of the handle, I need to first measure the length of the side of the rectangle along with the depth of the 2 small paint stick handles. So I laid them down on the sides to make it easier to measure. I trimmed the handles down to about 5 inches. I do want it to be a little shorter. I'm going to glue the base down, so I just add some glue onto the blocks and then I place the 12-inch paint sticks down. And because of the curved handles, I'm going to alternate the direction, with the 2 on the ends going one way and the middle going the opposite direction. Then I glue the 5-inch handles on the sides, making sure they're placed evenly on each side. You want to make sure they're even because if not, the top handle is going to look a little bit crooked. Now you can also use dowels in place of paint sticks for the handle. Just drill a hole for the dowels to go through and add some glue to keep it in place. Then I apply glue on the top and I carefully place the handle on top. Clamp it and let that dry completely. And this feels so sturdy. I'm going to stain this with Early American from Varathane, which is a beautiful warm stain. I'm using a foam brush because there are some areas that are quite difficult to reach, especially in the corners. So I brush on the stain, working in small sections at a time. And then I wipe out the excess with a clean cloth. So I just repeat that until the toolbox is completely stained. Now you can also paint this whatever color you prefer, or you can make your own stain with watered down acrylic paint. You can use this as a planter for succulents, place some greenery and flowers for an adorable centerpiece, or use it as a caddy to organize your items. Make sure to seal it once it has dried, and that's it. So easy and simple to make, but wow, such an adorable piece. I want to thank Flexispot for sponsoring this video. Now, I have been shopping around for an adjustable standing desk to use while working on craft projects, and I was so thrilled when Flexispot reached out to me. They sent me the Flexispot Comair All-in-One Standing Desk. Now, when I opened the box, I was pleasantly surprised at how easy and simple it was to assemble. There were really only 3 parts to put together, so setup really didn't take that long. So here it is, all assembled, and it looks beautiful and sleek, and it feels very solid and sturdy. I chose the all-white option, but there are also other colors available for you to choose from. There's also a drawer, which is so convenient to have. I love this desk because in an instant, I can go from sitting, working on my laptop, to standing while working on a craft project with just a press of a button. There's also 4 memory preset buttons, allowing you to save different heights for quick adjustments. There are also 3 USB ports, which is incredibly convenient. You can charge your phone or anything you want. If you guys are considering an adjustable desk but have a limited budget, I recommend you give this one a try. It has a 30-day risk-free return policy. The link will be in my description box below, so make sure to check that out. I'll be using 2 feet of this 1 by 2 inch wood board and 2 5-gallon paint stir sticks. I'm going to cut the 1 by 2 in half and the paint stir sticks to 12 inches as well. Before I stain it, I take note of the areas where I will be applying glue, and I make sure to avoid those areas. I'm going to stain the 1 by 2 inch boards in the shade Early American by Varathane. So I apply that all over with a cloth, and then I wipe it off immediately with a clean cloth. For a deeper tone, you can leave it on longer or apply a second coat, but always make sure to wipe out the excess. Here I make sure to leave the areas that I know I will be adding glue unstained. I also apply the stain on the ends or the end grain. Now the end grain is the most porous part and will soak up the most color, so to counter that, you can sand the ends with a higher or finer grit sandpaper than what you're currently using, and that will close up the pores a bit. Then I paint the paint stir sticks white with Waverly chalk paint. I do about a couple coats, but I will be sanding this down as well. I apply the paint on the top surface. You can also do the bottom and the ends, but I do avoid the edges or the sides because I will be applying glue on those areas. I want to distress the wood, so once the paint has completely dried, I start sanding. I glue the paint sticks together, and then I turn it over and press down so that the top will be smooth and even. And I did clamp it and let it dry before continuing. Then I apply glue on the wood boards and attach them on both sides of the paint sticks. And once it has completely dried, I seal it and I am done. This is so pretty with tea light candles or whatever you want to display. I absolutely love how this turned out. You will need about 9 to 10 12-inch paint sticks with 4 measuring 4.5 inches and optional 4 pieces at about 2 1/8, and we will get to that later. So I start off by gluing 2 12-inch paint sticks together at a time, and I'll make 2 sets of them. And I do the same thing with the 4.5-inch paint sticks. Once everything is dried, I form a rectangle and glue the pieces together like so. To make the base, I'm using 4 tumbling blocks. I glue down 2 on each end. Then I glue down the remaining 3 12-inch paint sticks. I apply glue on the bottom where it will hit the tumbling blocks, as well as the side. Once that dries, I turn it over and glue down 4 wooden cubes, which I got from Dollar Tree. Now this is optional, but the elevation it gives makes it look even more stunning. I'm going to add these 2 1/8 cut pieces to the front and back. I want to cover up the curved part just for symmetry. Of course, it's completely optional. And finally, I paint the whole piece with Waverly White chalk paint. So I apply that all over, and I did add some spackle in some areas before painting as well. Then I lightly sand it down, focusing mainly on the corners and edges. And that is it. You can display whatever you want. So versatile, lightly weathered, such a beautiful piece. packs of 5-gallon paint sticks. A pack comes with 3 for about $1. I'm going to be making a wooden tray using 6 paint sticks. It is cheaper to purchase these at Lowe's or Walmart. At least where I live, Home Depot sells them for about 50 cents more. Let me know if it's the same in your area. I want to cut off the curved handles, and I'm just going to use a miter box and saw to do that. So once the handles have been trimmed off, I give the edges a quick sanding, and now they are ready to be glued together. I'm using wood glue that I got from Dollar Tree. You can use any wood glue, but I do love the small nozzle on this one. It gives a lot of control and it dries pretty fast. Definitely use whatever glue you prefer. You can also use hot glue as well. I apply the glue on the edges like so, and I make sure that the ruler marks or the bottom of the tray is facing up when gluing. That way when I turn it over, the top of the tray is going to look nice and smooth. But with that said, it is actually going to be a double-sided wooden tray / riser, which you will see in the end when we are done. It's going to look awesome. Then I clamp them together. I'm just using Velcro strips, and I give it at least a few minutes to dry. While that is drying, I get another paint stick and I measure the height, which comes out to about 5 3/4 inches. I measure and mark for each end, and I just use a miter box and saw, which I always like to do outside. So now the glue has dried and the paint sticks have been cut, and these 2 smaller pieces are going to be placed on the edge like so. And these smaller pieces glued on the ends will give the tray more strength and durability. Now I did say this is going to be double-sided. It's a 2-for-1, so I want to remove the white ruler markings. I sand as much of that as I can off, and it does gradually fade away, and once we get some color on it, you won't even see it. For some color, I'm going to use Waverly Antique Wax. You can also use acrylic paint or stain, whatever you prefer. So I just buff that on all over. I do want this to be a little darker, at least on the side of the tray, and on the back I will go a little lighter. For dimension, I darken up the edges like so. For handles, I use 2 jumbo popsicle sticks and 4 craft cubes that I got from Dollar Tree. I trim the sticks down, take them outside, and spray paint them gold. I glue them together to form handles just like that. Looking back, I realized I should have glued them together first and then painted them. They are decorative, so you don't want to grip onto them, but the glue should keep them intact. I glue them down evenly on each side, and that is it. Wow, this tray came out beautifully. I love the pairing of the wood and the gold, and the best part is that you can turn it over and use the other side as a riser or stand as well. A high-end looking piece for only a couple of dollars. I'm going to be using 3 of these 18-inch white wood from Home Depot. You can also use 5-gallon paint stir sticks. Just trim off the curve handles. I'll also be using this This Is Us decal from Dollar Tree, and one 1-gallon paint stir stick. I push the wood together, and I measure the width of the wood, and I measure and mark the paint stick. And I trim 2 of these. Unlike the first DIY, I'm going to glue the wood together first before painting, but honestly, you can do it either way. If you are going to use wood glue, just make sure to sand the joints first if you're going to stain or use the antique wax. Otherwise, the wood is not going to stain well. Next, I glue the paint sticks on the ends like so. Now you can stop here, add some handles, and you have a nice tray. But we're not done. This is going to be a sign. For color, I'm using Waverly Antique Wax again, diluted with some water. I don't want the color to be too dark because the decal print is black. So I'm just adding a little warmth on the wood. For the side paint sticks, I do make it a little bit darker. Before removing the decal, I remove the outer sticky area just to make the words easier to remove. And it should be a perfect fit. I start by removing this, and I place that to the left. I remove us, and I place that to the right. And then I remove the middle word, and I place that right in the center. Now, I was having a little trouble peeling off the smaller words. I never used this decal before, so I had no idea the small wording was one long decal. It took a minute to figure that out. Initially, I wasn't going to include the hearts, but in the end, I liked the way it looked. To hang, I stapled jute rope on the back, and we're done. I really love the way this turned out, and I hope you do too. Sticks, and I got a pack of 10 at Home Depot. And I cut them down so that I end up with 4 that are about 9 inches, and 4 that are 1 inch, and 2 that are about 4 5/8 inches long. I glue the 4 9-inch paint sticks together, ruler side up so that when I flip it over, the tray surface will be smooth and even. The remaining paint sticks will make the tray handles, and I stain them with Minwax in deep walnut. I wipe out the excess, and then I sand them down to distress it and give it a beautiful, natural, worn-out look. I get a ruler and mark each corner about 1/2 inch. I glue the bottom of the 1-inch wood and place it on the edge where I marked it. Then I flip it over and do the other side. Once that is dry, I apply glue on the top like so and place the 4-inch cut wood on top. When that dries, you can sand any areas needed to make the edges look nice and smooth. Finally, I apply a layer of polyacrylic from Minwax all over to protect it. This is optional, but I do want to protect the surface, especially since it's unstained and unpainted. And that is it. This was such a quick and simple DIY, but it came out so adorable. A perfect decor to display succulents, flowers, or anything decorative. For this project, you will need 2 5-gallon paint sticks, and I got a pack of 3 for under $1 at Home Depot. You will also need about 12 super jumbo craft sticks, 3 of which will make a little holder, plus 4 tumbling blocks. Before painting, I cut the paint sticks down to about 16 1/4 inches. I just use a miter box and saw to cut them down, and I like to tape them together so that they come out even. Instead of paint or stain, I am going to use Waverly Antique Wax, and with a brush I apply that all over, then I get a damp cloth and buff it down until I get the shade that I like. You can also use stain or paint, just customize it to your preference. I do the same thing with the craft sticks and tumbling blocks. I apply the wax, then buff it down. Next, I glue 7 of the craft sticks together side by side. I'm using Titebond multi-surface glue, which works wonderfully on wood, and it dries pretty fast. But this is optional because I will be securing it with jumbo craft sticks. I just find that it looks a little more well put together when I use glue. Then I take 2 more craft sticks and glue them together, and then I secure it with another jumbo size craft stick. I got this gorgeous corrugated metal from Dollar Tree, and it is what inspired me to make this decorative wall organizer. So I lay the pieces face down, that way the front will be smooth and even when I turn it over, and I glue them together using hot glue and craft sticks. I apply the antique wax just to blend it all, and then I carefully flip it over. Now it's time to add the large paint sticks. I'm going to use E6000 on the metal and the multi-surface glue on the wood. Then I lay on top of that the paint sticks, making sure they are both evenly spaced. I'm going to add a little holder on the wood portion with the remaining craft sticks and 4 tumbling blocks, and the craft sticks are cut down to about 5 inches. I glue the tumbling blocks down on its side like so, making sure they are spaced out to the length of the craft sticks. Then I stack another tumbling block on top. I take a craft stick, apply glue on each end, and place that on top of the blocks. I take another craft stick, apply glue, and place that one above like so. And finally, I apply the final craft stick on the bottom. I'm going to use this nautical rope from Dollar Tree to hang the piece on the wall. And I use a mixture of hot glue and staples to secure it to the back. I bought these magnetic magnets from Dollar Tree and I thought it would be perfect for this piece. And that is it. A beautiful decorative wall organizer with a little holder for pens, pencils, note cards, or greenery. I absolutely love the way this turned out, and I hope you did too. I'm going to be using 3 of these 1.5 by 18 inch white wood. They came in a pack of 10 from my local Home Depot, very inexpensive. They are similar to the 5-gallon paint stir sticks without the handles. You'll also need fabric. If you don't want to head to the fabric store, Dollar Tree has a nice variety of fabrics perfect for crafting. I will be using this adorable black and white farmhouse fabric. I'm going to give the wood a light stained look using Waverly Antique Wax. I add some water to thin it out. And I just apply that with a damp cloth. I'll be gluing the 3 wood together side by side. I push them together and I'm going to be gluing horizontally towards the top and the bottom area paint sticks. So I just measure, mark, and trim them down using a miter box and saw. The bottom will be covered with fabric, so I'm going to use a smaller paint stick, and this will just give it more durability. For the paint stick on top that will be seen, I'm going to stain in the shade Dark Walnut, just to give it a deeper color. I will be gluing the wood together with Titebond multi-surface glue. So I apply that on the sides of the wood like so, and then I push the wood together. I wrap some painter's tape around to clamp it and hold it together while I hot glue the paint stick to the side about 1.5 inch from the top. The other end, I just glue it all the way towards the end. I want the fabric to wrap around the wood. It's going to make a pocket in the front, so I'm just measuring it and trimming it down. Now it doesn't have to go completely around the wood, but I do want the back to look nice as well. I remove the tape and then I just trim a couple inches off the bottom, and this really just depends on how high you want the pocket to be. I fold it in the top about 1 inch or so, and I apply a little bit of glue just to hold it down. I place it on top and I'm just lining the fabric, that part of the pattern that I like, something I should have thought of before cutting, because as you can see when I turn it over, I don't have much fabric on the right. So first I glue the bottom like so, and for the sides I tuck the corner in nicely like a present, and then I apply the glue on the wood and bring that side over. And on the other side, I apply glue on the fabric, and then I glue that on the wood. And you don't want to glue too tight, especially towards the top of the fabric. You do want to give it some slack. To hang, I'm going to staple this wired jute on the back. You can also drill a couple holes on top and string through some jute rope. I'm going to stuff the pocket before adding some greenery. Unless I'm using long stems, this will help hold up the greenery. And it looks nice as well. I'm going to use these eucalyptus stems, which I got at Walmart. The green in this really pops against the wood and the fabric. And finally, I'm going to wrap this pretty lace from Dollar Tree around the fabric. And we are done. You can lean this against a wall or hang it up. I love how this turned out. Tumbling blocks, which I got from Dollar Tree, and 6 jumbo craft sticks. I'm going to make 2 rectangle frames with these. So first I glue 2 blocks together at a time, and for one frame I make 4 of these. Once that's all glued, I form a rectangle like so. I'm going to place 3 craft sticks on top of each frame, so I measure and I'm going to cut them to about 4.5 inches. Using wood glue, I glue them on the frame like so, making sure they are evenly spaced. I'm going to paint the wooden frames ahead of the other surfaces that will also need to be painted once the piece is complete, because these are going to be glued directly onto a gray store-bought frame, and I don't want to get any paint on that. Otherwise, I would have painted everything when completed. So I got this adorable 8.5 by 12 inch frame from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to use it for the back of the organizer. I turn it over and remove the cardboard easel and the glass. I'm going to glue the tumbling block frames onto the sides. I'm going to need a very strong glue for this one, especially for this particular frame. I'm using E6000 and I let that dry completely before moving on. I bought a pack of 12-inch paint sticks from Home Depot. It came in a pack of 10 for under $1. You're going to need 4 for this project, and I apply wood glue on each side and I place it on the front like so. Then I apply the remaining 3, making sure they are evenly spaced, and you can definitely put 1 more to fully cover the front if you like, or just put 3 and space them out even more. I'm going to cover up the curved part of the paint sticks with super jumbo craft sticks, and I'm going to put 1 on each side. You can leave it as is if you like, or decorate it with greenery or flowers. So I'm going to cut the sticks down to about 5 inches and then glue them down using wood glue. And it's coming together so beautifully. To make the base, you'll need 10 tumbling blocks, 5 on each side, and I use wood glue on the wood side and E6000 on the frame side. If you sand it well, you can get 6 on each side, otherwise 5 works just as well. Next, you will need 5 super jumbo craft sticks, and I'm just going to cut them in half and keep the rounded ends. And I glue them down, alternating the direction of the rounded ends, and that completes the base. Then I paint all the unpainted wooden areas with gray, making sure not to miss any corners or edges, and you can paint this as opaque or sheer as you'd like. I want the 2 craft sticks to look a little distressed, so I sand them down a bit, and I like how it turned out. I'm going to place this beautiful decorative paper in the back, and I'm just going to glue that onto a smooth cardstock and then place a cardboard easel behind that to close the back. Now you can definitely glue the paper onto a foam board instead, or for longevity, use a glass. Place a paper behind it or Mod Podge it on top. I remove the easel stand and glue a small strip of decorative paper on the back, and that is it. So adorable, perfect for displaying stationeries, plants, or flowers. I really love how this turned out. A pack of 10 1-gallon paint sticks, and aside from glue and paint or stain, this is pretty much the only supply you'll need for this project. I cut them down to about 9 inches. I just want to cut off the curved handles, but save those handles because they will be used in the end. Once they are cut, I'm going to stain them using Minwax in dark walnut. You can also paint them or leave it as is. With a cloth, I rub the stain on, and I want the outcome to be dark, so I leave it on a bit before wiping out the excess. I also stain the back. Since I will be applying glue on the sides, I leave that area unstained. I will be gluing these 4 paint sticks together and these 3 together. And I did leave the back of the 4 unstained because I'm going to sand the white ruler marks down, since this will make the back of the piece. Of course, I should have done that first before staining. I completely forgot, but I am glad I remembered before I got to the last 4. So I sand down the white marks, and that does come off quite easily. As long as it's faint, you really won't even see it once it's stained. You can definitely sand down the whole 12 paint sticks if you want as well, but it really wasn't going to be seen, so I left it as is. So I glue the groups together. I'm using Titebond multi-surface glue, and I brush over with a small paintbrush to get that on evenly. After I glue together 4 paint sticks, I glue 3 together. And for extra durability, I glue down small craft sticks which have been cut and stained, making sure to leave about 1/8 of an inch space on one end. Now I'm going to take 2 single paint sticks and glue them together to make an L shape. Then glue that to the 3 glued paint sticks like so, making sure it dries at a 90-degree angle. And then I take another single paint stick and glue that to the opposite side. And finally, I glue the 4 glued paint sticks to the back like so, making sure it dries at a 90-degree angle as well. And look how gorgeous this turned out. It does feel quite sturdy. It doesn't feel like it's going to fall apart, so you can leave it like this to hold lightweight items, but for extra support, I did cut out 2 small pieces of wood from the leftover curved handles. I'm going to glue them to the back like so. It does fit perfectly in that slot, and this will definitely give it that extra support and keep the back from coming apart. Make sure to clamp it or tape it together so that it dries properly. I just love how this piece turned out. You are going to need about 3.5 to 4 feet of 1 by 2 inch wood. I got a 4-pack of 2 feet of premium sanded 1 by 2s, so it's a total of 8 feet at my local Home Depot. You can also get some longer boards which are not sanded, but they are a lot cheaper, or you can head to the Dollar Tree and pick up some 12-inch 1 by 2 MDF for $8.25. So from this 4-pack of 1 by 2s, I will be using 2 of these boards. I'll also be using 4 5-gallon paint stir sticks. I got a 3-pack for about $1.48 at my local Home Depot. I'll be trimming these down to the following measurements. I want to add some color before I glue the piece together, so as much as possible I'm going to avoid staining over those areas, such as the ends of the longer pieces. And I'm using my favorite Waverly Antique Wax. I want the wood to look rustic and naturally age, and to do that, I'm applying the wax with a damp cloth, And then I wipe it down on the clean side of the cloth as well, and this will dry to a beautiful rustic matte color. For the paint sticks, I only paint the tops and I flip them over, and from the leftover paint sticks that were trimmed off earlier, I trimmed 3 of those to about 5.5 inches. I place one right underneath like so, just to make sure the ends are straight, and I apply hot glue on another one, and I place that down right on the bottom edge. And I just want to make sure it doesn't go past the ends of the 4 paint sticks, but evenly on the edge because I'll be applying glue on that area, and I want to make sure it touches the wood that it will be glued to. I apply one more in the center just for more strength. To glue the sides, I'll be switching over to Titebond multi-surface glue, so you'll definitely want to use a good wood glue for this part. So I apply glue on both sides of the longer sides of the paint sticks, and then I just push the matching size boards towards it like so. And then I apply glue on the shorter sides, making sure to apply glue on that trimmed paint stick. You can certainly secure these with screws as well for extra durability. To make the handles, I'm going to use a couple square dowels and some of these wood beads. I got these on Amazon. They came in a large pack with different sizes as well as these square dowels, and I'll link that below. I trimmed them down to just under 8 inches. I want them to be long, and I'm going to glue the beads on the ends. So I apply glue about 3/4 of an inch from the ends, and I place the beads on top. I let that dry completely, and I'm going to spray paint them black. You can also paint them with acrylic paint. And once the paint has completely dried, I glue them down like so. I didn't show it here, but I do apply a sealant to protect the surface of the wood. Now, a couple tips: if there are some large gaps that are noticeable, especially on the ends of the paint sticks, you can easily cover that up with a small skewer or a coffee stir stick, or you can also make your own wood filler by mixing together the leftover sawdust and glue. This tray turned out so beautiful and rustic. You can display candles, vases of flowers or stems, or any decorative piece. I love how this turned out. You'll need 2 5-gallon paint stir sticks, and I purchased a pack of 3 at my local hardware store. I'm going to trim them down to about 13.5 inches, and I use a miter box and saw to do that. There are some white ruler marks on one side of the paint sticks, and I start sanding them off, but soon realized that they really were not going to be seen, so I left it as it was. I'm going to add some color with Waverly Antique Wax, and I want the wood to look aged, so I apply it with a damp rag, and then I wipe off the excess on a cleaner section of the damp rag. So you want to make sure your rag or cloth is damp when buffing it. And it dries beautifully. I'm going to stain 2 wood craft cubes as well, and I got these from Dollar Tree. I lay a paint stick down with the markings facing up, and I glue down a craft cube on the edge of one side. I glue it on a corner that doesn't have any ruler marks beneath it. Then I glue another one down on the opposite side. I get 2 more craft cubes and place them underneath, and these will just help hold the stand up evenly while the glue is drying. Then I apply glue on the opposite side of the glued craft cubes. I stand up the other paint stick on its side, making sure the ruler marks are on the bottom half, and I join them together like so. I want to place wooden letter blocks that I made from a prior DIY, and I will link that video above. And these were very easy to make. I just glue 4 tumbling tower blocks together, paint them, and sand the edges. And on top of that, I glue down these wooden letters from Dollar Tree. I paint these gold, but you can certainly customize the colors and letters. Super easy to make and super inexpensive. I place the blocks on top of the stand, and I love that it's customizable, and you can change it up throughout the year. Absolutely adorable. Making 12-inch wooden lantern. You'll need 20 12-inch paint sticks, and I got a pack of 10 for under $1 at Home Depot. So I start by gluing 2 sticks together to form an L. The paint stick that I just applied glue on, I lay that down flat, and then I take another paint stick and I lay that upright on its side, making sure it's on the bottom of the first paint stick, and I push those 2 together. You want to make sure that they're glued at a 90-degree angle, so I take a wooden block and push it up against that just to make sure it's exactly that. And I make 2 of those. For the remaining paint sticks, I do the same thing, but this time glue the upright paint stick on the opposite side or on top like so, and I'll make 2 of those as well. And again, I use my block to make sure they dry at a 90-degree angle. I'm going to cut the remaining 12 paint sticks down to about 7 inches. You can use a miter box and saw to do that, or if you don't have one or just want to simplify, you can use super jumbo craft sticks instead. The lantern will just be a tad bit narrower, not by much, just trim off those curved ends. So once the remaining paint sticks are cut, I form the lantern. I take an L-shaped paint stick and I apply glue on the bottom and attach a 7-inch paint stick like so. Then I take another L shape, one that was glued the opposite way, and glue that on the bottom right. And you can glue this in any order. Once that is dried a bit, I turn it and take another 7-inch paint stick and apply glue on one end and attach that on the bottom of the standing paint stick, making sure it's pushed all the way to the side, covering the exposed end of the previous 7-inch paint stick. Then apply glue on another L shape and attach it like so. And I did leave a little bit of the end of this 7-inch paint stick exposed because it will need to cover up the end of this paint stick. Thank goodness with this wood glue, I do have a few minutes to make any adjustments before it completely sets. Now this will actually be the top of the lantern, and so once I finish applying the paint sticks, I turn it over and work on the bottom. And I'm going to glue and place the 7-inch paint sticks exactly the way I did on top. Then I finish gluing the rest of the paint sticks. Once that's dried a bit, I lay it down on its side. I want to cover up those curved handles. You can leave it as is if you want, but I thought it would add a nice detail if I added another 7-inch wood over that. I place a jumbo craft stick between the two just so it's glued evenly, and I was surprised how that fit just perfectly. So I glue that all around, and wow, I really love that extra detail and I'm glad I added it. To make the base, you'll need 8 tumbling blocks and 6 super jumbo craft sticks. I line the craft sticks, place the lantern on top, and make my mark. And just note that the 2 sticks at the end will be slightly smaller. So I cut them down, then glue the tumbling blocks like so, and then glue down the craft sticks. I'm going to paint this lantern with black acrylic paint, so I apply that all over and let that dry a bit, and then make any needed touch-ups. Every time I think I'm done painting, there's always a missed spot. I'm not adding a cover, I'm going to leave the top open. Now you can leave it like this, but I thought I would add one more detail on top, and again, this is completely optional. So I place 4 super jumbo craft sticks on top, like so. I measure cut and paint them black, then I glue them down, and you really want to press down so that it lays flat on top. Otherwise, there will be gaps, so press firmly, clamp it down with painter's tape or even electrical tape. And let me just say, in the end, it looks so beautiful and well put together. I really love how this turned out. DIY, I'm going to make a window planter box. I will need 6 5-gallon paint stir sticks and 2 1/4-inch square dowels. I bought these paint sticks at Home Depot. They were about $1.48 for a pack of 3. I trimmed them down to the following length. I'm going to form a frame with the paint sticks, so I lay the 2 largest paint sticks down vertically and parallel to each other. I apply glue on the ends of an 8.5 inch, and I place that horizontally on top between the large paint sticks. To make the grids, I take a dowel, apply glue on the ends, and place that vertically in the center. Then I apply glue on the ends of another 8.5 inch, and I place that horizontally down just underneath the dowel, making sure the dowel is snug. Then I take another dowel and I measure and mark it to complete the horizontal grid. And this will be cut in 2 pieces and will be glued on either side of the vertical dowel. Now it's always better to go slightly longer than shorter because you can always sand it down if needed. I glue it down and this fits perfectly. Once dried, I turn it over. I do this with the back side up so that when completed, the glue joints in the front will be leveled. You can reinforce the joints of the paint sticks with a staple gun, but this felt pretty sturdy, so I didn't feel the need to. To make the flower box, I glue 2 of the remaining wood side by side. Then I apply glue on one side of that and adhere the last wood to that, making sure it's upright. And this will be the front. You can paint or stain to your style. I'm going to use some sample paint that I had. It's from Glidden in the shade Sea Frost. It looks like a very light grayish white shade. I got this at Home Depot a few months ago, and I believe the sample cost about $5. I use a chip brush to paint that on. I do want to see some of the wood underneath, but instead of sanding, I'm going to let the brush do the distressing. So in the areas where I want it to look a little weathered, I lightly brush over the wood, letting the tip of the bristles do the distressing. Once everything has been painted and dried, I apply some glue on the bottom edge like so. I stand the window up and push the base towards it. To make sure it dries at a 90-degree angle, I place a wood block behind it. I use a couple more square dowels to make the size of the flower box, and I'm going to put 2 on each side. I love how adorable this window flower box turned out. You can place succulents, flowers, fall decor, anything you want, and you can even leave it up all year round. You're going to need 3 5-gallon paint sticks, which comes in a pack for about $1 depending on your location. These I got at Walmart, and the wood pattern is a little different from the ones you get at a hardware store, but it works just as well. I measure about 10 inches from the edge, and I mark that. Then I measure the height. And just like the first DIY, I tape 2 together, like so, which of course is optional. You can saw them individually as well. I'm going to be using a miter box and saw to cut out 10 inches of width from all 3 paint sticks, and from the leftover sticks that will be cut out, I'm also going to cut out 2 at 4 1/4 inches, and these will be the base for the legs of the riser. And I'm going to sand and remove the ruler marks from the 2 smaller wood, although this part really won't be seen as much unless you're looking under the riser, but I did want to fade it a bit. I'm going to stain the wood in the shade Driftwood from Minwax, and I'm using a cloth to get that all over. I wanted to stain first before gluing together, not only to get a good bond, but if the glue seeps out and it gets on the wood, those areas won't take the stain very well. I will be gluing the 3 10-inch wood side by side, so as I'm applying the stain, I'm making sure not to get any of it on those sides because gluing together bare raw wood produces a much stronger bond. I stain all sides of the smaller wood pieces while avoiding the long edges. I let it dry a bit and then I glue the wood together. Now I did forget to glue them together with the bottom side facing up so that the surface will be smooth when turned over, so I just flipped that over since the glue was still wet. And especially for this one, unlike the first DIY, this is a one-sided riser. Then I clamp it together with tape. I'm gluing down the 2 smaller pieces like so, and I'm just placing down popsicle sticks on the ends just to make sure the bottom pieces are glued evenly. You can glue them all the way on the edge as well, but I wanted to take it in a bit. And then I check to make sure they're straight with a carpenter square. For extra support, I'm going to glue down 2 tumbling tower blocks, and once it's flipped over, you're not going to see it. I'm going to seal the riser with Minwax polyacrylic, especially since this has a lighter stain. I love how it turned out. a pretty stand you can place in your bathroom or kitchen or anywhere in your home. So easy to make, and it only cost about $1. If you enjoy these DIYs, please make sure to give it a thumbs up and make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you again to Flexispot for sponsoring today's video. Make sure to check out their link in my description box below. Until next time, bye!